1, 2, 3.
Yo.
We're retarded.
This is the Caucasian Interns podcast. We don't know if it's going to be called the Caucasian Interns, but that's what we're calling it for right now. Because we're Caucasian and we're interns. And this is a podcast. Alright.
Episode 1.
The first one. Alright. This is called the Cassandra problem. And it's a thought experiment. Basically, there's this Greek mythology character, Cassandra, and she has 20/20 foresight. She can see into the future. The only thing is, people don't believe her. She's cursed with people calling her insane for her predictions and her ability to see into the future. So nobody believes her.
Yeah.
And this game is basically you put yourself in the shoes of Cassandra, and there's some questions that we're going to answer. What were you gonna say?
Don't know.
Okay.
I was about to give some more background about Cassandra.
Go ahead.
She was one of the only people that knew about the Trojan horse, and she was telling everybody, and they didn't fucking believe her. They were like, nah, bitch, you crazy. We're bringing this horse in. And then they all died.
The horse slapped.
Yeah.
Like, if you've seen a big-ass horse, wouldn't you want a big-ass wooden horse?
I would take a big-ass horse, to be honest.
And they did too, and guess what happened?
Like, no cap, if someone brought a big-ass horse to the studio right now, are you telling me that we would not?
No, I'd ride it, bro.
Like, I would totally take that shit.
Yeah.
And that's how we get fucked.
Alright, so, are you Cassandra? Are we Cassandra now?
We are Cassandra.
We are Cassandra.
But I'm Daniel.
And you guys should think about these questions too.
Because you're Cassandra too.
We're all Cassandra. That's the kicker. Alright. Do you as foresight have choice? And who has choice within your system?
Okay, no, that's what I thought about when I first heard this whole scenario. Mm-hmm. It's like what causes her to see in the future? Is it external or internal things? Mm-hmm. Because what affects what, really?
Yeah, it's sort of like, is she just going down a path and, like, observing everything that's happening, and she knows what's going to happen before she experiences it? Or is it like there's some, like, she sees multiple opportunities and she's picking the ones?
Yeah, or is there some, like, set script where kind of like, imagine, like, you're a leaf and you're going down a river and you're just following the stream. You know, and it's kind of set in stone where it's going to go. You know where you're going to go and you have no choice. But you also do see other possibilities.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an interesting look to think of what happens if you ask her, what's my future? Because that's a variable in itself when you ask it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like, what defines that?
Does she know that someone's going to...
ask her in the first place?
She does know.
And another...
So does that person have choice?
Oh, God, this is weird. Because another thing is, like... Part of the entire script is that no one believes her the whole time. And that that's an influence on all the future events the whole time.
Yeah. So does Cassandra have choice? Do the people within Cassandra's world have choice? I don't
know if we can come to a definite conclusion on that.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think so. Oh. Just because if it's set in stone, everything is predetermined. Kind of.
I feel like everything is predetermined and it's really just... Okay, it's like, say, pretend all the possibilities are in a bag, right? You know, you have 10 red ones, 10 blue ones, 10 yellow ones.
Probability.
Probability, basically. And it's just which fucking... Like, it will be one of these. Mm-hmm. Which one's it gonna be? Mm-hmm.
So it's all random.
She knows which one it's gonna be, though...
So I think it's always
how
random.
It's gonna be? Kind of like it's a script.
Mm-hmm. You know Schrodinger's cat.
How could it be random though?
It's random because it's unwitnessed until she witnesses it. So it's like how he says it's just a mixed bag of possibilities.
Oh, I have another question.
Until you have an observer, which makes it true with the observer. It's quantum mechanics.
You are the observer.
And we're definitive now because you're observing us.
Another question is, does she always know what's going to happen, or does she kind of have to ask herself, like, the question, what's going to happen?
And
does
then
she have to think about it?
I feel like when she thinks about it, that's when it happens. Mm-hmm. You know, she makes decisions probably subconsciously, and then she gets to
tunes into the frequency of knowing what's going to happen.
Well,
so maybe choice is just an illusion. maybe she thinks that she has choice and everybody has choice when she's not tapped into the frequency of like, I know what's about to happen. But when she does think about it, she realizes that there is no choice. And maybe she doesn't like that all that much.
Oh, yeah, so that's interesting. Is she always seeing the future?
Yeah.
Always? She cannot not seeing the future?
And if she's seeing the future always, say this is the present, is she just here all the time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, is she
Like,
just
is she
like
ever
a
in the
four-dimensional being?
Yeah.
Where she just knows everything that's going to happen and it's all happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads into the next question. What does the mental landscape look like? And how does she process the information?
Because she's definitely not there. Like, she's there physically at best, but she's not there mentally.
Yeah. So, like, being from my human perspective, I only know what's happening around me in the present and what's happened in the past. And I'm conscious of that. So, is she also conscious of the future? And how would that look like in her mind?
Like, what do you do if you do know it, too?
Yeah. I wonder if she could even understand the past at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't she be able to understand the past?
This is pretty interesting, actually.
Like, I feel like if you understand the future all the time, the past wouldn't really make sense.
Or maybe you just don't care for it, something like
if
that.
if you're the entire timeline,
But you're always one step ahead. How is that possible, you know? If it's like this and you're out of it.
You can't be one step ahead if you're the entire timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be a three-dimensional being that has some four-dimensional capabilities to stay ahead. But
is the timeline infinite, or is it a set beginning and end? Or is it just go on forever? It never started, it never ended, it just always is.
a set beginning and end is kind of like, you know, we all have a set beginning and end, but we have no way of knowing if that's our definitive beginning and our definitive end, you know?
Yeah, like what happened before I was born.
But what happens after I die? What happens before I was born? Like, have I been alive forever?
Yeah.
Because forever is all I know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
So can you restate the question, number 2? Because I don't think we came to a conclusion.
We should conclude.
What does your mental landscape look like, and how do you process the information?
All right, let's go one at a time.
All right. I would say that the present and the future all feels like the present to her, because since she knows it's going to happen, in her mind it's already happening. So I just feel like it feels like a lot of things are happening at once. So maybe that's why nobody believes her, because as she's trying to express it.
She probably sounds crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
And how, define crazy, how does it sound like that?
Crazy is hard to define, right? Because it's dismissive. When people thought that the earth was flat.
You're crazy.
You know?
But it's only because
But also, when the people originally thought the fucking earth was round, they were crazy too.
Exactly.
You know, crazy is just you're so far removed from the conventional social standard.
Okay, yes, okay, so that defines crazy. And what were you saying about it? She's perceived as crazy?
Yeah, probably perceived as crazy because everybody around her is not able to even comprehend as much as she's able to.
Because she sees every next variable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and imagine trying to express that.
You can't really.
Yeah.
You can't bring the future to now.
You know,
because it's the future.
Yeah, us as third-dimensional beings traveling from birth to death, we're like third-dimensional beings on like a line of the fourth dimension, which we could consider time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, we have a way of measuring it, but we really only are at one. We really only can comprehend one point of that.
One line of it, of like an infinite
one
amount of
infinitesimally small point, which is the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which kind of leads into the next question.
Nice.
Because speaking of people viewing her as crazy, as Cassandra, what is your policy of dealing with standard humans? Do you tell them their futures, or do you simply keep that knowledge as a treasure hoarded for yourself?
Well, what made it say it's a treasure to begin with?
Right. And
Was it a curse?
Would
Is
it
a
even
treasure?
matter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you knew that you were going to tell them their future if you did, and you knew they were going to ask you to tell their future.
So did she just make it
Do
for
you
them?
have a choice whether or not You tell them?
That kind of goes back to the first question, too.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna loop around regardless. Yeah. But yeah, there's a scenario where the person does the future she knows, and there's a future where the person does the future they know, but oh shit. So there's a future she knows, right? And the person's gonna do it, and they never interact with her and the person, and she's right.
Mm-hmm.
Then they ask, and then she's still right. How is that possible? Like, once you ask, that's a new variable that shouldn't have existed.
Well, she knows it's gonna exist prior.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm basically trying to say is, would they continue to live in the same future if they never met her?
Probably, and she probably knows that.
And that's what
like,
makes it
it's crazy seeing the future, because, like, do you only see the future from your perspective, or do you see the future from other people's perspectives, too?
And is there an objective perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't think there is.
Yeah. I think it's all relative.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy, man. Her mind is insane.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can empathize with her.
Yeah, definitely.
Because when I was yelling, when I was in my moment, which you guys will probably find out when I'm of legal age.
Yeah. Yeah, be careful.
Straight up, I realized everyone realized I was crazy. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone was thinking I was crazy, and I knew that was part of
doing it.
My rambling, and like, you know, that was part of that entire scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was for me to be crazy. You know, it's so hard to express it. Because it's crazy.
And that's what she's going through.
What the fuck, dog?
So, is Cassandra subject to fate in a sense that the truth will always happen in some certain way? And is she subject to death?
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting one, because if she could see the future, she knows how to avoid it, but that just creates a new future. So can she ever avoid the future?
I don't think
so.
so.
Like she just keeps going.
Kind of set in stone, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she dies, and then she witnesses her rebirth before it happens.
Oh, that's crazy. The moment before death to see the rebirth.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Like, she probably
is she able to see all of
born.
her? Oh, that's probably why she knows everybody else's futures, because she also is everybody else.
If you
so she's like Jesus Christ, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
essentially,
she's the
pinnacle.
Yeah, she's taking all the weight, basically.
Yeah.
So everyone else doesn't have to think about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then
so she started from her point and went to his point, and then she always could go back to her point.
But
and that made everything in between.
Of all the points at the same time, or can she tune into certain?
I think you would need to tune in so you're not completely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she exists, and that's how you know she's not completely crazy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the last question is it possible to determine if any actions or judgments are moral, ethical, correct, intentional? Does everything just happen?
Or do they have reason?
If there's choice, are things good or bad?
I don't think things are good or bad.
Well, that's the whole thing with dualism.
Yeah.
You have to separate two to make something.
Because the farther you get from the opposite, the closer it gets. Like, it's kind of difficult to...
It's
like if there's no up, there's no down.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of coexist together as a yin-yang.
Like, this spot only exists as lower than this spot because I just put this hand above it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, so... okay. Cassandra and everybody else in her world, it would be like two beings who are quantumly entangled with their polar opposite.
Define quantum entanglement, because I know what it is.
That's a concept that's...
Are you talking about your
advanced.
definition or the more scientific definition?
The more scientific definition. Like,
so
there's two beings, and they're polar opposites, but they're kind of like... They're trying to communicate with each other, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This one is Cassandra. She knows all of this, and herself. This one doesn't know that at all.
But that's what he knows. That's his knowing.
That's why they're opposites. You know?
And what does that lead to?
Well, Cassandra was killed apparently. I think she was raped, too, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And she probably, I'm sure she knew she had to get raped, so she...
Exactly.
That's crazy to see your rape about to happen and accept it.
She kind of had to take a cross.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, to be herself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, that's the whole discussion.
Could she avoid quiet, that? You know? Yeah, she could have stayed quiet, you know, and just kept all of that inside. But it was probably a lot to keep inside, so in order to express herself, she had to, you know, tell these people about the future, and they didn't believe her. They didn't like that.
She's essentially like a prisoner to her own condition.
Yeah. Well, that's if it has a bad
connotation.
Yeah, because she definitely she just is. That's all she is at this point. You can look at it on both sides as a curse or a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Like, she knows everything that she's gonna do, so maybe she's just the observer of all reactions.
And that's how she
knows.
Yeah, that's like the superposition thing. Yeah. Like, if you didn't look at reality wouldn't exist. She's the thing looking at it to make it exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what Jesus does as well. And that's what we all have to do.
He's the observer? Mm-hmm. Nice.
Quantum mechanics. Like, we all have to be the observer in order to make this shit real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, think about it. None of this would exist if you can't see it.
And even if you could see it, or say if I could see it, and neither of them could see it, is that real? How do I know that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we, as observers, also rely on others' observations, basically to convince ourselves that we're not crazy.
Mm-hmm. That leads to an interesting question of who was the first observer. Who observes the first action, because all this is reaction?
Well, we should leave them on that question.
Well, I think we could leave them on that question. We can't answer this.
Catch you next time.
Caucasian interns.
Caucasian interns.